Hello and welcome from OneGrill Barbecue Products. This video is going to cover the sizing of a rotisserie spit system for this particular grill that we have in front of us today. It's representative of the vast majority of grills that are available on the market today. And so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the right side of the grill, and what we're looking for specifically is some mounting holes that we'll be able to attach our bracket system to. We're also giving an overall look to whether we have a notch for the rotisserie rod to set in. This particular grill does not have a notch for the rod to set in, but it does have a notch in the lid, which is good. You either want a notch in the lid or a notch in the base. Some grills actually have both. So this is a good indication that you'll be able to put a rotisserie system on the grill. It's really the first thing you look for. And now we want to take a couple quick measurements. So we're going to look at the spacing of the holes. Top set's about 1.5 inches. The bottom set 1.25 inches. And the distance down to the holes, we have 1.5 inches and 2 inches from this top surface. The next thing we want to look at is the shelf. A lot of grills will have a shelf on one side or both sides, and it's very important that we understand the level of the shelf to the rotisserie spit center line. There are some grills on the market where the shelf is very high and there's almost no room to put a motor unless you mount the motor inverted or sideways, and we'll take a look at that here in a minute. So the distance from the shelf to this upper surface right here is about 5.25 inches. I can tell right now this shelf is very high. It's one of the higher ones that you're going to run into, so we'll look at how we're going to mount a system to a grill with a high shelf. The next area that we want to look at is what we call lid offset. Side of the grill here, where the hot part of the grill, and then your outer lid, and there's usually an offset. On this particular grill, it's 1/2 inch. So this is going to be a factor when we put the brackets on the side of the grill. We need to know how far this lid sticks out from the side so that we can determine how far off the grill base the brackets would have to sit so that the grill can close and come inside the bracket set, as we'll look at here in a minute. Now we're going to take a quick look at the grill base, and we're going to measure the grill base and determine how wide our grill base is. This particular grill is 31 5/8 across the bottom section of the grill. The lid is 32 7/8. We'll keep those numbers in mind as we begin to size up the spit set. The bracket set. At OneGrill we offer a number of different bracket sets depending on the type of grill that we're going to be doing the installation on. This particular bracket set here is the 3-piece universal bracket set, 4PB06. It has an outboard bracket which will go on the far side, a main motor mounting bracket which is a 3-inch standard motor mount, and that's determined by this width right here where the motor slides on. In the industry, 3 inches and little tabs where the motor would slide down over the bracket. That is a standard type mount. This bracket is made to mount, in our case, on the right hand side, and we'll look at mounting that up here real quick, and then our motor bracket is going to bolt to this bracket to make a complete assembly. And of course we have some screws here to do the mounting. Now there are other types of mounts. This bracket has an inline set of holes, so where your notch is, where your spit rod would go through, the holes are basically directly in line horizontally with the spit rod, and we call this an inline style bracket. The other thing that we'll talk about briefly is large offset. As I mentioned, this is a standard offset bracket set, 4PB06. This is our large offset bracket, 4PB09, and you can see the difference, a little over 1/2 inch. pick up some extra distance here. So for some of these grills where that lid offset distance that we looked at a minute ago was about a 1/2 inch, here you can get a lot more distance for a lid that is wider or offset from the grill base more than most. We're back on the right hand side of the grill, and we have the bracket that goes right next to the grill, and then we have our motor mounting bracket. We have a couple of the larger bolts that come in your kit, and the 4 smaller little screws that come with your kit, 11mm socket, and a number 2 Phillips. And I'm going to go ahead and attach the bracket to the side. I'm using the upper set of holes that we saw earlier. And the reason I'm doing that is because, as we mentioned, this grill does not have a notch in the base, so we want our rotisserie spit rod to come across the grill above this notch. So we're going to be coming through in this general area right here. And to make sure we're on the right track before we get too far, we want to make sure the lid closes. This is the standard for PB06 mounting bracket. And I make sure that I have room for my spit through this hole with the lid closed. Looks good. I'll bring the lid back up, and I'll just quickly snug these bolts. And now I want to mount my motor mounting bracket. I have multiple options with this motor mounting bracket. I can mount it to the side in this direction or this direction, and the reason we do this is specifically for the situation we talked about earlier, where the shelf is very high. If I was trying to mount my motor in this direction, it would hit this shelf for sure at this distance. So we mount our motors off to the side. Forward or back, it really doesn't matter which direction. And I'll put the screw in here, tighten it up. Let's get the first one done, the other ones will go a little bit easier. One here. And to keep the video short, I'm not going to put the other 2 in. I want to keep moving here. So now we've got the right hand side of the grill set up with our bracket set. We make sure the lid closes again. The lid does close fine. So we're ready to move on to the left side of the grill. Okay, we're on the left side of the grill. We've got the last bracket in our set, which is our outboard support bracket. We have a couple more of the larger screws from the screw set. And again, we're going to go in the same set of holes as we did on the other side. And we used the upper set of bracket holes on the other side, so we'll do that here as well. Quick tighten. Makes it these locking nuts, you barely even need a socket. And we're mounted up, so our bracket set is mounted. Now there are other hole options. Some grills have a set of holes centered. Some we may need to raise or lower this bracket, but the point with the hole mounting is either to get the center of this notch lined up with the notch in the side of the grill if we have one, or lined up in a position above this level in this case, so that our spit rod can run from one side to the other above the base.